Welcome to Quality Time with MoreSteam. I am your host, Dan Swartwout. On this show, I often interview continuous improvement professionals with a focus on Lean Six Sigma and operational excellence, but that's not always the case. For example, for 2 episodes, I interviewed Alan Payne. Alan is a former Blockbuster franchisee who wrote Built to Fail, the inside story of Blockbuster's inevitable bust. If you haven't listened to those episodes yet, please check them out in the archives. In another episode, I talked to Flowwater CEO Rich Razgadis. Rich is a longtime friend of mine, but more relevant to the show, Rich has guided multiple startup companies to rapid growth. Be sure to check out Rich's episode in the archives too. This episode of Quality Time with MoreSteam follows the tradition of those episodes I was just talking about. Actually, today's episode sort of combines those previous episodes because today's guest, Dino Tripodis, is a longtime friend of mine who just happens to be making a movie. Dino is a writer, producer, comedian, and longtime Columbus, Ohio radio personality. He is making a movie called Down to the Felt. This movie has a $1.5 million budget and recognizable Hollywood stars. In today's episode, Dino and I talk about quality, efficiency, and improvement during the filmmaking process. It's a really fascinating glimpse into the process of making a movie. And if you're a lean practitioner or a continuous improvement professional, you will recognize some concepts and principles that Dino and his team used to make their movie better. Please enjoy my conversation with Dino Tripodis. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by my very good friend, Dino Tripodis. Dino, welcome to the show.
Dan, thank you for having me. And yes, I feel very fortunate as well. Anytime I get to share space with you, be it comedically or I don't even know what the word would be for podcastedly. A new word. I'm inventing words.
This is kind of an interesting turn of events because you are a renowned podcaster with a very critically acclaimed podcast called Whiskey Business.
Thank you.
And I have been a guest on your show, I think 4 times?
At least.
And so now to have you on my show, this is just phenomenal. It's like I said, a bit of a turn of events because normally the questions are directed to me. Although on the last episode, I think I directed some questions to you at the start.
Yes, you did.
That I was on earlier this year.
Yes, you did. You took over, which I love.
So check out the Whiskey Business podcast. It's a great podcast, a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. That's been going since what, 2016, Dino?
2016, 2017. I think about seven years. So maybe it's our 8th year. We just wrapped up. We just recorded our live audience Halloween show at Echo Spirits last night, and that was a blast. We had a psychic by the name of Cindy Riggs on, and we also did some whiskey tastings. And you, being a whiskey connoisseur in the last few years, we sampled our baby. We did we're making our own whiskey with our own mash bill. Echo Spirits was kind enough to let us experiment, and we checked in on it at 9 months on our baby. So it'll be a year old December 23rd, and then in about 2 years and 4 months, we'll have us a whiskey of our own. So
that is exciting. Do you have a show planned for the debut of the Whiskey Business whiskey?
Yeah. The name of it right now was a joke. It's called Ink and Cigarettes because we kind of went with a writing theme on it, and it was kind of a joke. Let's just call it Ink and Cigarettes. But now, as more time passes, there hasn't been a name we like better. So Ink and Cigarettes might come out, and it's interesting because even at 9 months, it has a little bit of in the nose. You can pick up a little tobacco, and it's kind of cool. So.
Is this going to be something that people can purchase, or is it made specially for the show?
Oh no, it's something that Echo will sell. Yeah.
I can't wait to get a bottle.
Yeah, me too. Because there'll only be a barrel's worth. So however's many's in a barrel, however we get out of it, that'll be it. So anyway, we digress.
Very cool. You've got a movie that's in post-production very soon to come out. It's called Down to the Felt. I want to talk a lot about the production process for making that movie. But before that, just a little bit of your background. You've been in the show business industry for a very long time, found early success as a nationally touring stand-up comedian, including a national television appearance on Fox. Was it Comic Strip
That was
Live?
Comic Strip Live, hosted by Wayne Cotter. Yee.
What was that like doing that national TV spot?
I was, first of all, nervous as hell, excited. And it was an interesting time in all of our lives because I think I've made this joke with you before. One of these things is not like the other in present day, because on that show, on that bill, was myself,
Yeah.
an up and comer by the name of Sarah Silverman.
She's done a few
Yeah,
things.
another guy that's been hanging around and still doing stuff, David Tell, and and another guy who they have a new documentary about, Louis C.K. What's on that show?
So the four of you were on that show.
Yeah, one of these things ended up not like the others.
And so then from your stand-up career, you translated that to continuing with your stand-up career, but being a morning radio show host here in Columbus,
Right.
Ohio for approximately 3 decades, right?
24 years, a little bit of a break. Then they asked me to come back in 21. And then we were unceremoniously all fired in April of this past year. Go figure. New management,
Well, that's,
new
you
management
know,
came in and wanted to put new paint on an old building, I guess. I don't know. I harbor no ill will to them whatsoever. They are entitled to do whatever they want. A lot of people are still upset about it. Months later, here it is October, and I still, if I run across half a dozen people, I'll run across 2 dozen people on a daily basis to say, "What happened? Why? Oh, we miss you." Blah blah blah. It's the nature of the biz. The fact that I had a 24-year run and then 3 more after that, incredible. In one place, at one station. It's not WKRP, going back to our TV roots, up and down the dial,
town to town,
up and down the
up and
dial.
down the
Yeah,
dial.
yeah. I did not have to do that in my career, so I consider myself very fortunate. It was a great run.
What was that like being with people day after day for so long? You really develop, I'm sure, a connection with an audience. To have that kind of longevity, to make that kind of connection with the community, that must have been a really cool feeling.
A very cool feeling, and it's one, to say I didn't appreciate it, that would be the wrong thing to do. I didn't realize it, would probably a better way to put it. When I left the first time in 2018, I I get a little emotional. I was just so amazed at the outpouring and the stories that people had. You don't realize uh, how much a part of their lives you become on a Monday through Friday, week after week, month after month, year, literally after year. And people were coming up with stories, and some I remembered, and some moments I didn't. But and when I say I didn't, it's not because, oh, I didn't care, I forgot. It's just you meet so many people. But I was just amazed at how that job can become a part of people's lives, and I've never taken it for granted, and I still appreciate it to this day. And when I left in 2018, the outpouring was just something that I was not expecting, and was extremely touched and moved by. And then to see that same passion come from those same listeners when we all got fired in April. I mean, Stacy, Clark, Greg, myself, the whole kit and caboodle. Then it was a different kind of passion. That was like a different type of reaction, because as far as they were concerned, Columbus Radio Group took away their family, and put them out. They were not happy, but as I said before, I wish them well. The people that are working there now this morning as we speak are good people and radio professionals as well. And I wish them well, and I wish them all well. I mean, I benefit not at all from harboring ill will. It's just it's something I don't need in me, and away with it. You know, move it on.
Right. And you are moving on because you've certainly been busy. It's not like you've just been sitting around. You've got a lot going on, including, like we mentioned earlier, Down to the Felt. Tell us a little bit about what Down to the Felt is all about, what the movie is
Let,
about.
let me connect them first of all, because the day we got fired, when they were very nice and gracious and said, we're offering you this severance package, all you have to do, we thank you for everything you've done. I remember getting up saying, well, thank you, it's very kind. If there's nothing left to discuss today, I believe I have $1 million motion picture to continue making. And I got up and I left. It was a superb exit. Yeah. How many times can you get up from being fired from a job and saying, well, thank you, I have $1 million motion picture to finish making. Goodbye.
Not, when did Down to the Felt
It
start?
started April 22nd, I believe. Yeah, yeah, April 20, late April. We had, I might have the date wrong, or April 18th. I can't remember. I know it was a 22-day shoot, so maybe I'm getting my numbers mixed up, but it was a 22-day shoot that started in April and went through May. And we stayed on schedule. Yeah, Down to the Felt. What was your original question? I'm sorry. Was it what the movie's about, or
Yeah, just with the movie, the plot of the movie, because you're on the production team and you're also in the movie. You're acting in the movie.
I have a small cameo in the film. My biggest contribution to the film is one of the writers and producers. So this was probably you being a writer as well. You'll understand this. I wrote it with Ralph Scott and John Osbeck, two gentlemen.
Frequent collaboration partners. I know at least John.
Yes, yes, and it is by far I, the best thing that I've been a part of as far as writing goes. It's when I look at nobody's more critical of our work than us, right? And
Right.
I actually walked away from this one when we had well the shooting script ready to go after 38 to 42 drafts before it was all said and done. I think, yeah.
When did you start writing it?
Interesting as well. The whole project started as it started out of frustration. It was during the pandemic where we were all sitting around saying there's nothing for us to do. Everything's shut down. There's no
Right.
work. So let's write something. And Ralph Scott came to us with a one-page treatment called 2 Minutes, which is initially was about a computer guy who had a gambling problem. And the 2 minutes is in reference to the last 2 minutes of a football game or a basketball game, how the last 2 minutes are the most exciting, be it basketball,
Uh-huh.
football, the Kentucky Derby, whatever the case might be, and how sometimes it all hinges on those last 2 minutes as a sports fan or as a gambler that you're watching to see what happens. So he brought the one-page treatment to us, and they asked me if I wanted to write with them. I said yes, but I'd like to change it to just a compulsive gambler, a guy who that's his thing. He's got a job, but the job is secondary to his need to gamble. And so basically, a compulsive gambler on a bad losing streak has a chance meeting with a devout Jewish hitman in a bar. Some things happen, and before that meeting is all said and done, they make an agreement for the hitman to kill our gambler in 2 weeks so his mother can get his insurance money. Why 2 weeks? Because he has enough money left after a couple of severe losses to take it what he calls down to the felt. If he wins, more money for mom. If he loses, he dies and mom still gets the insurance money. And the reason he wants the hitman to do it is because he owes money to mobsters, to bookies, et cetera, et cetera. If they kill him, they'll make it look like a suicide. His mom won't get the money, and so forth and so on. So he wants one lock, if you will, as far as a bet. And this deal with the hitman is it. As things progress, he changes his mind doesn't want to do it. His luck changes. He meets a woman. But our devout Jewish hitman thinks that our gambler is doing something very righteous. And that's a big part of his character arc, our hitman. So he won't let him out of it. And he's going to follow through. The guy's going to die. You made a deal. They shook on it. And he says in the bar, there's a scene, there's no U-turn on this. There's no going back. And our guy says, okay, I'm in, it's a good plan, right? And the hitman says, no, it's your plan. So, and off we go. I'm very excited about it. We are in our second edit and very close to picture lock. And after that will be color correction, sound editing, some ADR, music score, music in the film. So there's still a whole lot to do, but that chunk of actually shooting it, producing it, and getting to where we're at is huge, especially with independent filmmaking.
You mentioned that you have $1 million budget, and that is very, very impressive for an independent film. But you also have to consider that the typical Hollywood film often has budgets of well over $100 million, maybe even $200 million.
Right.
So, I mean, that's got to present some challenges, I would imagine. I imagine the first challenge was raising the funds itself.
The budget was actually $1.5 million.
Wow.
Before it was all said and done. Yeah.
That's really impressive for an independent film.
It is the largest independent film ever shot in Columbus. And I should say the largest independent film successfully shot in Columbus, because there's been a lot of films that have started, ran out of money. We told ourselves that, we did this by the book. It was a SAG-AFTRA film, low budget, obviously, but we followed every strict guideline. We approached this as if it was a $10 million or $20 million movie, as far as everything that we had to do, all of our due diligence. A lot of the credit for that, because there was an immense amount of paperwork, an immense amount of being on this computer, and that goes to John Osbeck. He did all that. He was our guy. He also directed the film, but he was the one that had the due diligence to follow through on all of that. And the money itself, yeah, man. Here's what you do when you want to make a $1.5 million film. You make a deal with this guy called the devil.
Sure.
You sell your soul, and then you get to make your movie. And then, worry about the other part of the agreement later. No, that's not how it worked. The money was raised through private equity. The money was raised through a core of individuals who were on the same page as us. We, in addition to wanting to make this movie, we also wanted to highlight Columbus, Ohio, and show the industry that this level of filmmaking can be done in Columbus, Ohio. Everybody goes to Cleveland. They go to Cincinnati. They go to Pittsburgh. And Columbus, like this ugly stepchild of film, kind of gets tossed over. Every once in a while, something will come in. And there's tons of small independent films in production as we speak, short films, feature films, so forth and so on. Not with $1.5 million budget, but still, they're being made. They're doing it here. But we brought in, A-list Hollywood actors. I'm very proud to say that all of our supporting roles and extra roles were all cast here in Columbus. I mean, we probably cast 20 to 25 working actors in Columbus that are in our film, and be it extras or whatever the case might be, or small roles, speaking roles. So I'm thrilled about that. The fact that our crew was an entire Columbus made up crew, and they were amazing, absolutely amazing. You want to make a movie in Ohio, come to Columbus and get a Columbus crew like we had, because I'm telling you what, they were instrumental in getting things done properly, professionally, efficiently, every step of the way. I can't say enough good things about the crew every step of the way. Amazing.
I want to touch on a couple things you had just mentioned. First, you mentioned those films that start and stop and don't come out till much later. there was a film that was produced here in Columbus called Goodnight Cleveland that I believe you were in, correct?
You have done
When did
research.
when did that finished product actually come out?
I have no idea. I
Because
know that it came out on some form, but gosh, that was back in stand-up days. We shot that in the 90s. And
I remember because I was asked to be an extra in that in 1997, and I don't think it actually was released until well into the 2000s.
no, it wasn't. I played I think I played the club owner, that was dealing drugs. I think his name was Ian. And I got to be honest with you, I've never actually seen the entire film in its entirety. I believe I have a copy of a DVD somewhere, and that was shot by, I don't know if did you ever know Miguel Baldoni? Did you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Miguel directed and was one of the writers on that one, and he shot it. This was back when we did not have the luxury of the technology we have today. How we shoot. He shot it on film. So there you go. Shot on film was, you're talking very expensive, and
Oh yeah.
you don't get 5-6 takes, and it was an interesting little story. It's out there somewhere in the movie ether, but yeah, same thing with Bottom Feeders was shot on film when I did Bottom Feeders back in the 90s as well. Tom Bauman shot that one. That one was shot on film, but that one actually had some, release success, both domestically and internationally. I think internationally it's called Criminal Minds.
I think that's what it's on the IMDb
Yeah,
page.
playing the lead character of Plank McCall, which I still think the movie screams for a sequel. Bottom Feeders, second helping, but
That's a great name, Plank McCall.
Plank McCall, yeah. I mean, that was great, man. Talk about you make something back in the day, and you think that that's your ticket. I thought, okay, this is going to start something for me. We did it. We screened it at it had a 2-week run at AMC Lenox at the time. I remember the first weekend it opened. Per screen average, it actually made more money than the Robert De Niro film that was playing at the time. I think it was Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. What was that? Righteous Kill?
Hate?
No, Righteous Kill. Right? It was
Okay.
It wasn't a good movie. It wasn't a good. But I remember like, oh no, we beat De Niro this weekend here at Columbus, Ohio. That was one of my big claim to fame. But again, distribution. That's probably where Bottom Feeders got screwed. That is an interesting little obstacle of post-production that we've learned a lot of lessons from with our projects in the past, because we did Street Where We Live. John Whitney and I did that movie with John Osbeck. I produced -1 for him some 17 years ago. And there were missteps in distribution as far as the deal. You get so excited about finishing a film and someone says, we'll distribute it for you. And they say, we're going to put this much money into distribution. You'll get money when we make our money back. And then surprisingly and amazingly, they never make their money back. So we never get anything. Though there was interesting with -1 is back out there on video on demand. And I think a little bit of money was made recently on that because by mistake, because people were clicking on to -1 and thinking they were clicking on to the Godzilla movie, -1, the Godzilla movie that was out there. So I think they, in their haste, they clicked on our film and bought our film instead of the Godzilla film. So weird.
If I look back and think on major studio motion pictures that were made here in Columbus, Ohio, Teachers, Judd Hirsch movie from the early 80s was made here.
With Nick Nolte? Yeah. Big movie. Yeah.
Well, as a television fan, of course, I'm going to say Judd Hirsch first.
Sure.
Before I say Nick Nolte. But yeah, Central Ohio has not had as many films made here as other places, as you mentioned. I wanted to get into some of the things of ensuring the quality of a motion picture when you don't necessarily have some of the resources that like a major studio motion picture would have. So how did you ensure high production quality without those resources?
Well, let's talk about the resources first. I mean, work with what you got
Right.
and utilize what you have to the best of your abilities. So if you're going to spend that money, uh, I'll give you a perfect example, like where all of a sudden you start saving money to apply to the production and the post production, because you know we want the sound and we want the color to look good. We're not going to make this movie and then cheap out on the color correction or cheap out on the sound. Those are, as far as me, those are kisses of death to a film. It's got to sound good. It's got to
Uh-huh.
look good. I mean, we did our work as far as making the movie. The performances are there. The story is there. So you budget. You literally budget. Now, where do you save money? Because originally this gambler and this hitman, in the original script, it was, set in casinos. We thought that'll be easy. We'll go to Hollywood and shoot in Hollywood, or we'll go to Scioto Down. No, it's not easy. There's too
Uh-huh.
many hurdles, too many issues, two places that are open 24 hours a day. It would have been a logistic and expense nightmare. So what do? You change it from casinos to backroom games to underground casinos. We took the Columbus Italian Club and completely refurbished it inside and turned it into an underground casino. Throughout the film, you'll see him in backroom games. So all the games were kind of back. You see him in a high roller game. We have a room that was just a high roller game. So right off the bat there, you're saving literally tens of thousands of dollars, but you can apply to
Right.
everything else. Um, I got to thank the city of Columbus itself, because location, location, location. We got so many locations for free or next to free in order to shoot. That saved literally tens of thousands of dollars in the process. So many people, and now they have the distinction of being in the film forever. We shot. We I gave our lead character. I made him a produce salesman. Okay, and when we went from the computer guy,
Uh-huh.
I made him a produce sales. Why? Because I knew that I could get Sanfilippo Produce as a location down the line in the film. And when he gets fired from a job, he gets fired from his job because he made a bad deal on a shipment of Mexican head lettuce. So I knew that we could use Sanfilippo Produce for no cost whatsoever, and
Right.
have a physical, actual, realistic location that we didn't have to dress or do. I mean, we did. We fixed. We dress. You dress every set, but the fact that we had a place like that on our first day of shooting was just like, you know, a kiss. Same thing with the Columbus Italian Club. They let us have the club. They let us completely redo the club. A lot of the guys said, "Can you just leave it like that?" Because we had gambling tables and poker tables. I mean, it looked like a underground casino, which obviously we didn't leave it like that. But a lot of guys said, "Just leave it like this. It's great." Uh, yeah, okay, no, couldn't do that. But the locations helped out tremendously, tremendously in that respect, and that's, um, uh, you know, I want to use one word, serendipity. There was a lot of serendipity
Right.
involved. There's a lot of love. Um, we raised our money through private equity. I can't mention all the people that came into the group, but I can mention one, because he actually went on 10 TV and talked about how he was behind it. Cameron Mitchell was one of the investors that got the ball rolling for us.
One of the most successful restaurant operators in the entire country, based right here in
Yep.
Columbus.
And when we went to him, people say, "How did you raise the money?" I said, "Did we wine and dine?" No, we didn't have the money to wine and dine. We pleaded and said we need it. And uh, to our credit, John, Ralph, myself, uh, we went in prepared. 2 years ago at the American Film Market, we took down to the script, the American Film Market. We had meetings set up with production companies. The goal back then was just to simply sell the script and be done with it. Write it, sell it, write another script, move on. We weren't going to make it.
The American film market, I assume this is some type of convention where people come looking to sell scripts and you have buyers there.
Looking to sell scripts, looking to sell movies. It is an international uh, market. It's called the American film market, but they get distributors from all over the world. They convene. Used to be in Santa Monica. This year it's in Vegas for the first time. John and one of our executive producers, Jack McClintock, are going to Las Vegas to literally test the waters, pitch our wares, setting up meetings as we speak. We'll probably start with the same people because we had about a half a dozen meetings with production companies that were interested in the script before we ever got out there. We did our due diligence. We did our homework. We set out the script and they said, we would like to meet with you and talk about Down to the Fell. And we met with those people and they all expressed interest. Nobody bid on actually buying the script at that particular point and then we sat in our hotel room in Santa Monica and we started thinking about it. And with each meeting, we became more and more passionate about Down to the Fell to where John said, guys, I don't know if I want to let it go. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, I think I want to make our own movie. And we like, oh boy, here we go. Because now we're getting into it. Now we got to go home and figure out how to budget this film, which is a little bit of naivete. We thought we could make it for $500,000, $450,000, $500,000. No, it was in order to make it look and feel like it does, it was a $1.5 million budget. In order to get the great cast that we got, which was Michael Stahl-David, who you might remember from a film called Cloverfield and numerous television appearances, Michael Weston, who was a recurring regular on House and Scrubs, and he's got a great scene in the movie Garden State with Zach Braff. Scottie Thompson is our female lead, who's had a nice run on NCIS, Grey's Anatomy, Blacklist, and other feature films as well, like Murders at Yellowstone. Most recently, they were all great. So we had, we could have cast local people to be in our movie, but we wanted some stars. We wanted some that had a little bit of a name to them,
I find this really interesting, not only that you've got such an amazing cast for the movie that you made, but that the film industry, which everyone thinks of as this incredibly glamorous and different industry, is like so many other industries. There's conventions where people go to buy and to sell. And then I think, again, it almost reminded me a little bit of Shark Tank. As you go and see at Shark Tank, maybe somebody passes on an offer and they're still so passionate about it that they go and turn it into a success on their own, that kind of entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
So you're an entrepreneur as well as an artist in making this.
Oh, okay. Well, I never considered myself to be an entrepreneur, but okay. I can tack that onto the resume. Yeah, it was a labor of love. Yeah, do I want to do it this way again? I mean, this is kind of the hope and dreams of making this film, that once it's done and sold, and I feel very confident in the fact that it will sell. Now, will it be released theatrically? That's a whole nother ball of wax. That game has changed entirely.
So much.
It's streaming it's interesting how streaming has all of a sudden raised its profile considerably. I always say that streaming, if your film went straight to a streaming service 10 years ago, it was kind of like you couldn't cut it theatrically, so you're streaming it, or straight to video on demand. That's not the case anymore.
Right.
Now, the working model for streaming is entirely different. I mean, when you have a George Clooney, Brad Pitt movie, Wolves, which was supposed to be in theaters, and Apple decides to say, no, we're just going to stream it on Apple. And then Apple ends up breaking all of their streaming records for a theatrical film on its first weekend of release. That's where there's money being made there. There's people that are, subscribing to Apple just so they can see this new George Clooney movie with Brad Pitt. And it's a good movie. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but that's an interesting model. So now someone says, it's interesting. Where's it going to be? People don't say, where's it going to be seen? People say, where do you think you're going to get it streamed? Is it going to be on Amazon? Is it going to be on Netflix? And they speak of Amazon and Netflix and Apple as theaters. So yeah, however it gets picked up, however it gets distributed, that remains to be seen. But I feel very confident that it will end up in a good place. And then I'm hoping that when that happens, that it's a calling card that as a result of the good work, John's great direction, our producing, the writing. I'm hoping someone said, well, who wrote Down to the Film? These guys did. Well, get them. We want them to work on this. I don't know if that'll happen, but that would be, ideal. If I look at the fantasy part of it, like, this is the calling card, and then, or someone says, hey, we want you guys to make this movie. We're so-and-so pictures. Here's $5 million. Go make a movie,
Right.
Okay, yeah, great. We don't have to raise the money ourselves again, because that I won't sugarcoat it. We had $14,000 to start, which was donated by two lovely people, Robin and Peter Hersha. I don't mind saying their names because they deserve the credit. They believed in us from the beginning. They gave us $14,000 to start. With that $14,000, we put a entertainment attorney on retainer, and then and we got an accountant, because we knew we were going to need these people to do it successfully and to do everything by the book every step of the way. Then what was left of that, we shot a concept reel for the film. That concept reel was a calling card for investors. And we would use the concept reel to go to investors and say, this is what the film kind of feels and looks like, and this is what you're going to be investing in.
Again, the comparisons to other industries, that's essentially a prototype, Dino.
Yeah, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's so cool.
The result of seeing the concept reel, people were like, yeah, okay, because it's very hard to tell somebody, could you give us $250,000 for what? Well, these words right here. And granted, they had the words, and it did have the script, but to show something visually with the concept reel, I think was a tremendous assist in letting people see, like, okay, I see your vision, I can read your vision. The script is great, and I'm not saying it because I was one of the writers on it, but one of the best compliments that I received on the script was from one of our investors who loves movies, and he said when he read it, it reminded him of a Coen Brothers film.
That's high praise.
That's high praise, and I always say that when we were writing it, that I unconsciously credit what I call the collective, because I think things that we learn over the course of time stay with us. So, when I was writing it and doing the dialogue, we were doing the dialogue. Did I have Quentin Tarantino? Did I have the Coen Brothers? Did I have one of my favorite writers of all time, Elmore Leonard, in my head? And when we were writing the dialogue, was that what I was looking for, in realistic words, and how people talk, and how these characters develop? Yeah, probably. So, you take what you learn, whether it's conscious or unconscious, and apply it. But yeah, we got the money. We needed $980,000 to start shooting effectively. And, there was the writer's strike. There was the actor's strike.
Right.
That slowed us down a little bit. But once everything was resolved and we were ready to go, we went for it, man. We did it.
22-day shoot. A lot of Hollywood stars in your movie that probably have to get to the next gig. So you had to do this in an efficient manner, I'm sure. Time is money, and you've got people who have other commitments that they need to get to. So what creative ways did you look to improve efficiency while filming?
Well, as far as our stars go, you schedule their time. The person who was on set the most was Michael Stahl-David, who played Paul Murphy. He had the bulk. He's pretty much in the movie from start to finish. So he's pretty much here for the whole run. Scottie Thompson, we bring in for 3 or 4 days, shoot her scenes, and get her on her way. Same thing with Michael Weston. He came onto the set probably 7th or 8th ninth day of shooting, and we get his stuff done and send him on his way as well. So again, you budget your expenses. We can't afford to keep all of the 3 actors on set for 22 days and have them sit someplace and just wait. We bring them in when we can afford to bring them in, make sure they're properly housed and fed, which we did every step of the way. And then when they're done, thank you very much. And they go. One thing I do want to say, and all 3 of them said this, and I don't think it was lip service. I really don't. They all said, as far as an independent film, it was one of the best experiences they ever had. And they were
That's
amazed
fantastic.
at how efficient everything went here in Columbus with this production. They said, yeah, I know it's a $1.5 million film, but they even said it doesn't feel like a $1.5 million film. The way everybody was treated. And that's the other thing too, man. Respect, and more respect. That is something I've always tried to live by, and it certainly applies. Nobody has a small job
Right.
on a film set. I don't care if you're a production assistant or you're the director. For everybody is important. Everybody is part of that symmetry to make a movie a good movie. If you have crappy PAs, it's going to show it, that it's going to put a crack in something. And we didn't. We had magnificent production assistants. Everybody was so committed to this film, Dan, that we
Yes.
convinced Cullen Douglas, who was one of our creative producers, had written a Lifetime-ish type of film called My Mother the Madam. And they were going to shoot that in Florida. Cullen, as a result of being here and being one of our creative producers, and also in the film, he plays Paul Murphy's bookie, Seamus. He convinced these people to bring their budget to Columbus. So on the heels of Down to the Felt, we shot My Mother the Madam. John was a co-director on that. I was in charge of background extras. Cullen was the writer, and they had a much smaller budget. They had like a $350,000 budget. So we shot another feature film on the heels of Down to the Felt for somebody else in 11 days. But why was that so efficiently done? Is because 85 to 90% of the crew were the same people we used on Down to the Felt. So, I mean, right there, the fact that the juices were, the wheels were still greased from Down to the Felt. Everybody, it was like, oh, like a reunion. Here we go. We've done this before. We know how to do this. Now we have 11 days to do it instead of 22, but we can still get it done. And they brought in their actors. They brought in their people that were, that have done these types of films before, and we got it done. Now we didn't write it, but the fact that we had a hand in helping them make it was huge. And again, they left with the same praise. Wow, shooting it in Columbus was great. Thank you. So, kudos to the city, man.
So you had a 22-day shoot for Down to the Felt. The next movie's an 11-day shoot. So you're together as a team, for the most part, for a little over a month. How did your team focus on getting better, or how did it get better? Things that you noticed about how things got better from day 1 to day 30.
How did things get better?
Because your team, obviously, as you're gaining experience, as you're working together as a team, you get into a groove where things are getting better. How did you see that? How did you notice that? And how did you maybe inspire that or lead that?
Again, I'll go with the respect for your coworkers, respect for your team, communication, huge. Always communicate, have respect. I'm not saying that, that on any given day, you're talking 12-hour shoot days, and for production, you're talking 14-hour days, and some days that, John and I would be afterwards, looking at 16-hour days and back in 8 hours to do it all over again. Respect, communication, everybody on the same page. Everybody wants to get to be a success, and just that first day, I remember that first day, there was a shot that was a very difficult shot. It was a moving camera shot, and it was like, wow, day one, we're going to attempt this shot, and we got it done. And when that shot happened, when that shot got pulled off, I kind of said to myself, you know what? We're going to be okay. I mean, if we're attempting this on day one and it worked and we got it done, the rest of it's going to be fine. Adjustments and tweaks were made. Like I said, you went from casinos to back rooms, and we had a couple of weather issues, but for the most part, again, serendipity. The weather cooperated with us on a great level. We were very fortunate in that respect, because shooting in Columbus in April and May, it could be spring, or there could be you could have snow on the ground, at the end of April, depending on or it could be 90 degrees, depending on what's going on. It's very unpredictable, but we were very fortunate. So yeah, I think it was just the consistency factor, the fact that everybody was on the same page from day one to the end. And you could see everybody coming together. I know it sounds corny, but as a family, because they could see what was happening. They could see these other attempts. I remember Jared Green, who was a part of the crew, head of the crew, said at the wrap party that he had been in many of these situations and had many invitations and invites to make these types of movies, and he seldom would ever come to fruition. And he said this one did, and it's just and that alone, the fact that it got done and is being done, is being completed, is just, it's a feather in the cap for Ohio filmmaking on a big level.
As you're getting everyone on the same page, did you have like all staff, all team meetings at the start of every day, or how did you coordinate that? There's always that old joke. What does a producer do? I don't know. So
no, there was always we start off with what they call a safety meeting. But everybody gets together morning of the shoot or night shoot, whatever the case might be. You start off with a safety meeting. Everybody gets on the same page. Everybody knows exactly what we're shooting that day. Everybody knows exactly the work that needs to be done. Everybody gets on the same page, and you know what you're doing every step of the way right there. You always start off with a meeting, and you always emphasize, again, respect as you go through and make your film, and you try to get your pages in. And we did. You have X amount of pages. 22 days is not a lot of days to make. 11 days is even shorter. But 22 days was very aggressive. A very aggressive shoot. We would shoot 6 days off one and go. And days off weren't really days off. Days off were like, okay, we have a day off now to figure out what some of the issues we might be coming across here in the next couple of days, and how do we resolve them? And where do we get this, and how do we get that, so forth, so on, blah blah blah. So yeah, I know what a producer does. I know what an executive producer does. An executive producer is the money. God bless them. God bless them. Let their names be in strong, beautiful, large font on the screen, because you can't do it without them. Producers, right. Ralphie, myself, John, you're doing the other work. You're making sure that A plus B is going to equal C, and you're there rising to the occasion. You're putting out fires. You're doing whatever you need to do to produce your movie. Yeah.
As you're shooting the movie, writing the movie, editing the movie, how important is feedback to you in the filmmaking process? And how do you use that feedback, take that feedback to enhance the movie, which is the final product?
There was a rough cut. When the first rough cut came out, John very kindly gave the rough cut to a dozen or more people in the industry that he trusts, other directors, other filmmakers, other writers, myself included, Ralph included. And each one of us was supposed to go through that rough cut and make they always tease me when I say copious notes, um, about what you thought about the cuts and where you thought things needed to be cut and changed and so forth and so on, what you thought was working, what you thought didn't work, because that first rough cut was, uh, close to an hour and 50 minutes too long, so where can we cut? And it was interesting because in that first rough cut, the story was there, it wasn't like, but it could have moved quicker, faster. It could have been slicker, meaner, leaner, and
Uh-huh.
interesting to get feedback. And then what you do is you funnel that feedback, and and then when you start to see like, okay, 12 people said this about this, maybe we should look at this and consider cutting it or changing it or whatever the case might be. There's an interesting little phrase. There's the movie you write,
Right.
there's the movie you shoot, and then there's the movie you edit. It can be three different entities every step of the way, because the movie you write, yay, we did it. Here's our script, here's our story, and we love our story. And you start to shoot, and as you start to shoot, you start to find, and the actors start to find little discoveries that maybe you as the writer didn't notice or pick up on. They have a different perspective, and they bring something. Oh, there was one scene in a synagogue where our hitman is talking, our devout Jewish hitman is having a conversation with his rabbi, and the conversation, in my head was a very respectful conversation. There was one point where Michael Weston took an angry, bitter approach. It was the same lines, but delivered in an entirely different way. Like you go, whoa, okay, yeah. So these are the types of little discoveries that come along the way, and when you find them and they work, it's amazing. So yeah, the movie you write, the movie you shoot, and the movie you edit, because there's a lot of editing has changed. I don't want to say it's changed the story. It hasn't changed the story at all, but it has changed how we tell the story. And I think as a
Right.
result of that, it's being told more effectively and more efficiently.
More effective, more efficient. That's quality time with more steam. So I'm going to be really efficient in throwing it to this short break. MoreSteam's enterprise process improvement platform includes the tools, training, and software you need to transform your organization into a problem-solving powerhouse. Join the ranks of Fortune 500 companies that trust MoreSteam for their enterprise process improvement. Our integrated approach, featuring training, project tracking and execution, simulations, and statistical analysis, empowers your team to create a culture where structured problem-solving becomes second nature. Visit moresteam.com to learn more. And now back to my conversation with Dino Tripodis.
I am thrilled to see this movie. I know you've been talking about it for a long time, and you've got a long history in being in movies, making movies, writing movies. Your IMDb page it's pretty substantial.
I need to fix my IMDb page. It's substantial, but it's all over the place. I mean, I don't even know what's on it. And John Osbeck has promised to make me a new demo reel, so I got to hold him to that. So yeah, it's interesting. You said you're in the movie. I have a small cameo. Talk about editing. We wrote this opening scene in the beginning of the film, which is between the gambler, George the Greek, and Paul Murphy. And it's this beautiful 5-minute scene where you see they play this game of poker, and Paul loses $40,000. Now, if you were to take that scene all on its own, I were to show it to you just separately with nothing else in the film, you would say, what a great scene. That, wow. But in putting it together and wanting to capture an audience quickly, you have to grab them fast anymore.
Yeah.
That exposition was too slow for the beginning of the film. So what was a beautifully written 5-minute scene, and it broke my heart because it was a poker scene, and I love to play poker. ends up being about 30 to 45 seconds of action and film. But the message is clear. You deliver the fact. You know he lost $40,000. You know that you know that happens. It just didn't take 5 minutes to tell it. You know, we
Right.
showed it and we showed it quickly. So yeah, when I say I'm in it for like that much.
Anything else, Dino, as it relates to quality, anything else about indicators or signs you look for throughout the filmmaking process to ensure that the movie is meeting the quality standards that you have set? What are those indicators? What are those signs?
With well, first of all, you know, to look at it and see the performances are there, right?
Yeah.
And to see to be fortunate enough to have so much good stuff that you can actually, when you do come to edit, it's a struggle as to what to pick and choose. That helps. The fact that in our budget, and when I said we needed $980,000 to start, we needed more money after the fact, and we got more money. And when we got that money, that was like, we have all the money we need for post. We don't have to go cheap. We weren't going to go cheap on post no matter what. When I said that we wanted everything to stay in Columbus, we tried to keep as much of it in Columbus as we possibly could. But there is a certain level of sound editing that needs to go someplace else. That, you know, because we wanted to keep that level of where we're at. This $1.5 million film that looks and feels like a $10 million film. You know, spending that little bit of extra to send it out to one of the best sound editing facilities that countless other films use. Same with color correction. You know, the last thing you want are these great performances and this great story to be marred by bad sound or bad color. You know, because at the end of the day, movies are a visual medium. You want, you know, what you see, whether it's conscious or unconscious. You may not appreciate the dark hues and a certain amount of light over here, and you might not realize the sound of one cue ball hitting another one in a game of pool, or the background announcer on a TV. You may not be consciously aware of that when you're watching it, but it's there, and it's part of the experience. You know what I'm saying? It's part of the
Yeah.
minutia of a quality film. So all that minutia is very important to us every step of the way. We got the performances, we got the story, we shot the film, we did everything we did. Now you got to make sure that the baby is clothed properly before you send it out and go, you know, send it out to school. You know, you want to make sure your sound is good, honey, and your color's
Right.
good, your color's good, and everything's good. And we want you to have good music. So we're going to make sure we have good music, which is another thing too. Don't even get me started on that, how music changes the feel of a scene too. We've gone through a lot of different things with music. When we were looking at one of the rough cut trailers, we just had some filler music, and it was a song that we couldn't use because it's by a very popular artist and there's no way we would ever get it. But in the second rough cut trailer that we put together, we actually have music that we can use, and it's a whole different style of music, and it actually changes how you look at the rough cut trailer. I mean, it gives it more, it makes it a little dirtier, a little edgier. And it's like, yeah, that's what you want. That's what we want. And these are just amazing discoveries that you come along the way with.
I think when you think about music and how it can change a film, think about the scene in Goodfellas where they've got the second half of Layla playing, and how that is so linked to the feelings and emotions and memories of that particular scene. You couldn't imagine it with any other music
No,
playing.
you know, and I know that Scorsese music is huge, and so it's another character for him when he's making his movies. I'm very curious to see his. But speaking of him, he's got the Beatles documentary coming out here in November.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what he does with that. And just, yeah, I talked about the collective, you know, from the writing standpoint, the Tarantinos, the Coen brothers, Elmore Leonard, as far as dialogue in books, and then you start thinking about your Spielbergs and your Scorseses and Clint Eastwoods and guys that have just been making movies forever. And it's like, how did they do it? Because this, before it's all said and done, from the time we sat on my front porch and Ralphie brought that 2-minute treatment, you know, it'll be about 4 years from start to finish.
Wow.
From its birth on the front porch, sitting here where I'm sitting right now. We met, 2, 3, 4 times a week working on the script every step of the way. And then I remember that when we got done with it, and they brought John brought it to me all properly bound. I said, "We did it!" Now we weren't done. We weren't done. That was the first one, and then there were 30 more after that, changes, and like I said, we did everything we're supposed to do. We shopped it. We paid for a service to get a critique. We, a huge thing is that I believed in both stand up and radio and everything else is, don't always believe your own press. Don't get so caught up in yourself that you can't see and appreciate criticism and suggestions. Not all of them are good. And we had one incident where we paid for a critique, and I knew immediately that the lady who was giving us the feedback had not read the entire script, which I felt was insulting, because we paid, and you could tell that she had not read anything at all about it. And I was like, okay, not good. But then there were others who offered up amazing feedback when we were writing the script as far as the story. I've learned a lot writing this script that I'm going to apply to the next script and the script after that, or even to a short story or a novel, whatever the case might be. There was a huge learning curve with this for us in respects to storytelling that I can't put a price on, except $1.5 million.
Anything
Which I got paid $1 for, by the way. Then you talk about how saving money. The writers, we each paid ourselves $1. We had to pay ourselves something. I have it framed right up there. I have the check right there. $1. I hope to make more on my next script, but
yeah. Dino, this has been such a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for joining the show. This has been such an insightful look at this. And I, for one, am just really excited to see this movie. You've been talking about it a long time. We've been talking about it a long time. I've heard about it. I haven't had quite this level of insight into the filmmaking process. So I really appreciate you being here on the show, and congratulations.
Buddy, you and I go way back, and I've always shared the good things with you. I've shared the bad things with you. I've shared the mediocre things with you. We have a history of having a lot of fun, and there's nobody I like to talk more about movies and television with than you off camera. But we've done that repeatedly.
Repeatedly.
I believe you're in my will.
Yes.
I have an immense, for those of you, I have an immense, ridiculous amount of DVDs, and Swarty is about the only other person I know who still is devoted to the DVD format on some level. So yeah, in my will, he gets all my DVDs, and then what you do with them is up to you. But I'm going to tell you what,
we recently. No, it won't be a good day. We Dino, I will tell you this, we recently redid the closet in my basement to make even more space for my DVDs and Blu-rays because they were overflowing. So I have got not quite as many as you, but I've got enough where people come in and say, you should open a Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Shout out to a previous episode.
Shout out. Yeah. DVDinos is what they call my place.
Dino, thank you so much. Where can we find out more about you, more about the movie? Where can we go online? Any social media?
DownToTheFeltMovie.com is where you can check things out. We have a Facebook page. We have an Instagram account. I don't know how well we've been maintaining those because we've been knee deep in the post production of things. So, but yeah, Facebook page, Down to the Felt, the movie, Instagram, Down to the Felt movie, down to the felt movie.com. Um, uh, are just some of the places you could check things out. And wish us luck in November as we go to market to market. I don't know what they. We also have film festivals under consideration as well that we'll be
Nice.
sending it out to. We're kind of playing the ends against the middle. See which direction is the wind going to blow? Do we go the festival circuit? Does somebody at AFM say we want the movie? Does somebody fight over the movie? Oh, who knows what could happen? But in 20, we'll have a local Columbus premiere in 2025 at some point. I don't want to be held to a date, but I would say I would like to say in the first quarter of 2025. We're definitely taking a rough cut of the film to AFM, and it won't be sound edited and won't be color corrected, but the story will be there. And anybody who's there that knows anything about movies will be able to ascertain, yeah, this is a movie that we'd like to be a part of. So we'll see, man. We'll see. And kudos to all the Columbus filmmakers who are making films as we talk right now.
Right.
There are things that are in production. Keep doing it. Do it right. Do it as best you can. Get lucky, because we were very fortunate. Like I said, we had that one domino fall in Cameron Mitchell, and then others came in that door that he opened. So, yeah, I don't know who your Cameron Mitchell is for anybody out there making a film, but he was a blessing and a guy that believes in Columbus, and I'm so thankful that he believed in us and everybody else that came on board too. Who's, like I said, names that I'm probably legally not allowed to mention. I know Cameron was, because he did pieces on Channel 10 and made it very known that he was a part of things. But all of our executive producers who have supported us, and the people that came in after the film and gave us money once they saw some of the rough cuts and so forth, and said, okay, I'm in. Some people needed a little bit more of a push to say, okay, I can put my money in here, and we hope to sell it for more than what we made it, pay back our investors, and hopefully maybe get more than $1, myself. But even if I just get $1, dude, the fact that we did it, the fact that it's being done, and it's being done right and being done the way we envisioned it from day one to where we're at right now, that is a success story all on its own. So,
well, it's a legacy. It's a legacy.
I hope. I don't know about a legacy, but I'm happy to leave something like this behind, in addition to my massive DVD collection that will go to you.
Dino, congratulations. Good luck. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Danny. Appreciate it.
And thank you for listening to Quality Time with MoreSteam. You can email the show at qualitytime@moresteam.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast service. Also, please go ahead and visit our website, moresteam.com, to learn about the software and tools that can help you solve problems, eliminate waste, and do things better. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more Quality Time with MoreSteam. Thanks again.